Good morning, everybody. Welcome to IT Live, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. I'm Texas Homer. This is Eric Nalleen. Coach Dub is on his way. Today, we're going to talk 2025 expectations, the year before the year, trademark, but this is the second year before the year. And then we're also going to talk about Jonah Williams getting hype in the batter's box and what we think that means. Texas baseball, rough, man. Losing 5 of the 6 last SEC games on a bit of a slide. But, we're going to go into depth on that on the Inside Texas Baseball show. We're going to film here later today. Good morning, Roaster, AR. Hope all had a great Mother's Day. I did. It was nice. Hope you guys did as well. All right, Eric, the year before the year, I 1,000% agree with you.
I'm not saying, where is that coming from? The only thing I said about the year before the year is some players. I think Texas should be number 1 going into this season. Now the team in 2026 is going to be better than 2025, or at least it should be.
You do a players list, but you really think you think this is an all the way the team?
Yeah, they're not playing any teams from the past. They're not playing last year's Ohio State team. They're not playing Michigan from 2 years ago. They're playing the Ohio State from this year. They're playing Oregon that's getting a new quarterback. Everybody's got a new quarterback. Georgia has not. Georgia's not the same as they were when they won back-to-back championships.
Sure.
Alabama's breaking in a brand new quarterback. So you have to weigh the team that Texas has this year, but you're weighing it against the current climate. Texas has less questions than anybody else in the country.
Yeah, you can't look at it in a vacuum, which I can be guilty of right there. But I think we can be ranked number 1. This team takes a lot more projection for me than the previous 2 years. Right? Because we knew
but every other team does too. Texas had
the only one with a returning quarterback is Penn State, and they don't have the receivers.
Well,
and then
Clemson is good. Clemson has. If you're looking at quarterback situation, the best quarterback situations to me are LSU, Clemson.
Mm-hmm.
LSU is not a championship team to me. Clemson, Arizona State has a quarterback, but they don't have, and they've got a receiver, but they're not a real national title threat. Clemson is the team that has the best quarterback in the as far as coming back with experience. But is Clemson a title threat? Maybe. They do have a lot of individual talent, but yeah, I don't know. I think Texas should be ranked number 1 based on what they have coming back. Penn State, I don't believe in the quarterback. I don't believe in the head coach. Texas, the big question with Texas, of course, is offensive line. If Texas had a known offensive line, it'd be game, set, match on who the favorite should be. So, there's wiggle room on who you can have. But to me, Texas has the fewest questions.
Yeah, I think my big thing is we have questions on O-line, questions on the interior D-line. Now, we've also had those funny interior defensive line questions for like 3 years, and it's worked out every time.
I'm not even worried about the D-line. I don't know. It boils down to the offensive line to me.
Yeah. And so that's kind of the tricky part. But I think, too, I'm just looking at who has – and this is a real question. Who's going to get 12 players drafted next year? Is there anyone out there right now that's doing that?
I don't think it's going to be Texas. You know what? Let me see. You got to account for the new influx of players, too. Yeah,
those are the teams that have won it the past couple years. So that's what I'm trying to think of, like, really just who has the depth and who has the NFL bodies this year. And there's not a ton, it feels like, off the top of my head. So
Clemson has a lot of NFL kids, but Clemson, I think, has a big a wide gap between the talent at the top and the talent at the bottom, where Texas is more, it's evenly distributed and across classes as well. Texas won't have 12 next year. Penn State's going to have a number of draft picks next year, but are they even going to win the Big Ten? I wouldn't even pick Penn State to win the Big Ten at this point.
Yeah. Coach, how do you feel about that?
Just catching up with this. The thing about Clemson to me, I think they lost some of the veterans on defense. And the defense wasn't that great last year, right? They returned to offense with a lot of young receivers in Cade, but what does the defense look like? I don't know if I have them in my top 5 just because of that. I think they're going to give up a ton of points in the ACC again this year. They got lucky last year to even be there. So I know they got high at the right time. I don't know. I know Georgia doesn't have a quarterback situation, but Kirby Smart always finds a way with it. They just rally around. Right? They play good defense. They play good special teams. If they can get anything out of their quarterback over there and they get a running game, they got receivers. It's just you never know what they're going to be up front. They lost some guys. So Penn State, always a talented team, but with Texas, man, I just feel like the continuity there with the staff. Then you got Arch at the helm, right? I feel like you have everything else around. If the young guys on the outside step up, I don't know. I think defense is going to be elite again this year. So I think Texas has all the right pieces to be number one. I don't know. It's going to be, it's why you play the games on Saturday to find out. But Ohio State, I feel like they just lost too much. And starting a freshman quarterback, it's going to be hard in that competitive league. And so we'll see what happens.
It felt like the year Michigan won, we kind of knew ahead of time it's going to be Michigan. The same with Ohio State. So Ohio State, but they started getting weird. But that was because we knew basically, look, these are older teams. And I don't think we have that this year. So it might just come down to who has the most impactful young players, and the coaching difference might be this year. And that could make for a fun year. If we don't know there's a team, hey, this team has 13 NFL guys, then maybe it's just going to come down to who's got a quarterback or something.
Somebody had to have a Cinderella season out of nowhere and just, take off. Who knows?
Well, 2 years ago, along with Michigan, you had Georgia, and Georgia was the best team in the country. At least it could have been for a while. It was them or Michigan, and then they lost to Alabama. And because it was only a 14 playoff, Georgia was out just like that. Remember, Texas had beaten Alabama. Alabama has to get in the playoffs. They can't leave Texas out because they had beaten Alabama at home. Georgia was right there, but I don't think Georgia seems to trail off just a little bit every season. And, you wouldn't believe that if you only watched them play twice last year against Texas. But if you watch them against, a lot of the other teams, they don't look the same. They don't have the same rotation of they don't have the same depth on the D line that they once did. And they just lost another couple guys. So yeah, I feel Texas should be number one based on the merits, not, this isn't a homer based thing. I picked them squarely. I picked them exactly right the last 3 years. I'm trying to see if I can do it again. I might feel a little different in August if the offensive line doesn't whip into shape like we want. But, I was thinking about the O-line the other day. I'm like, Ohio State had all kinds of issues on the offensive line, and they found a way to get it done. So even if the O-line is just average, I think Texas still has to find a way to get it done. This, if you look at 2026, that landscape looks a lot different. Julian Saint and Ohio State are going to be right back at it again in 2026. Other young quarterbacks are going to be more experienced too. Oregon with Dante Moore in his second year starting is going to probably look different too. So it might actually be easier this year, even if the 2026 season looks better on paper. It's kind of like 2008 Texas team was better than the 2009 team, even though the 2008 team didn't even play for it all. It's kind of just, how does the rest of the landscape? There are external factors that play a role in whether or not you succeed, as well as internal factors.
Yeah, I have a Fanatic Perspective, fellow YouTuber, Kieran. They were also talking about on Twitter a day or two ago that, they're like tempering expectations for Arch. Hey, he's a young player. Hey, it's his first year. But they made some interesting points that, Stroud and all these guys, when they showed up year one, they were balling. Right. And then also Arch he's first year starting, but he had starting reps last year, and he's his third year in the system. So kind of where do you guys fall on there's this natural like protectionism that I want to do with quarterbacks, just because the Texas fans will eat you alive in the quarterback race, So it's always like, hey man, be chill. But what are the real expectations for Arch? I know, Eric, your sources have said something like, use the H word. But are you guys tempering expectations just to make sure the fan base doesn't go ravenous? Or do you really feel like there's going to be significant struggle that's going to change outcome of games?
Yeah, I'm not tempering my expectations at all. That experience. I mean, look how much he improved from his first start to his second start. Going from ULM to Mississippi State. Now Mississippi State has a lot of issues. They played a lot of teams relatively tough. Their record, they were better than their record indicated. We saw a lot of individual improvement from him going from that first start to the second start. And I think a little bit goes a long way with Arch. So those two starts, I think, are going to go a long way. It's his third year. Everything we hear behind the scenes is that he's mentally in charge, taking over. He's telling guys where to be. I'm not tempering expectations at all. I think, I just had my predictions on his individual statistics the other day. So I'm not afraid of it. This is not a true freshman quarterback. That would be the time. I was tempering expectations on Quinn Ewers. That was the time to do it. His first year starting, I said, man, he's actually got a real battle with Hudson Card. There's no clear cut. Quinn Ewers has a long way to go. He's nowhere close to being the finished product. In 2023, I said he's much better than in 2022, but he still has a long way to go. 2024, I think, maybe I was wrong on Quinn, but I wasn't wrong on Quinn in September. I was wrong on Quinn after the injury, I guess. I'm not tempering any expectations on Arch Manning. I'll go to the grave thinking he's going to be an absolute beast this year.
Look,
Hoorah.
Like, man, for me, look, I feel like this is a quarterback you're going to win a national championship with. Whatever. You might win back-to-back. That's how I feel about Arch. That's how I feel about his game. I'm not tempering any expectations on Arch, man. I think what he brings that it factor. Something you just can't account for. Like, he's going to make an off-schedule play. He's going to do something that you just didn't expect. If it's 4th and 5 versus USC in the Rose Bowl, like, he's going to do something that you don't expect, right? You're down by, 2 scores, and you pump fake somebody and go 80 yards like VY did Oklahoma State. Like, Arch just has that. But people rally around him. You cannot account for somebody falling behind an actual leader. It takes the team and everybody to a new height. Everybody wants to play to that level. It's like not pleasing Sark. I got to please Arch, and everybody around him will just gather around him. I think this team is going to build through the season, and if go as far as Arch can take us, but I'm not tempering any expectations because I think he's just that guy.
Yeah, I wouldn't be saying Texas should be number one if I thought Arch was going to come and sputter out of the gates. You can't have it both ways. If I think they're justifiably number one, then I have to think Arch is going to be good. That article you have up, when I talk about the young Longhorns, I'm talking about individual players who are going to have to wait their turn just because the staff prioritizes experience. There's a lot of talent and depth and experience ahead of these young guys. They're ready to play a lot. They're ready to play well. But I think they're a year away before they actually start starring and starting.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought Fanatic and Karen made good points there, so I wanted to touch on that.
Mm-mm.
And I was looking at some guys who break down film on Twitter that were not high on Quinn Ewers are very high on Arch Manning, and they're giving you examples. And it is that playmaking that's the difference maker. I'm excited for it. All right, now let's look at these young players, Eric, for providing this segue. So, Jordan Washington, we were feeling good about that. Injuries comes in, so that changes the calculus a little bit. So we don't expect Jordan to go for 50 catches.
No, it's not the injury, dude. It's not. That injury was nothing. That injury was precautionary. That I wrote that when it happened. It was just hamstring. He's fine. It's the fact that brought in injuries. Yeah.
Injuries sounds like injury.
Oh, I thought you said injuries. Oh, okay. I'm like,
injuries coming in.
For that. Injuries. Yeah, injuries off. Yeah, we have to do some plays on words now. You got me. I was predicting 50 catches for Washington. Injuries comes in, and I'm predicting injuries to have 50 catches. Amazing how that works. Washington's going to be good, play a lot this year. They're still going to be dangerous in 12 personnel, but they brought in injuries for a reason, and I expect injuries to be their third tight end in 3 years going to the NFL.
Yeah.
Who is 12 personnel? Is it injuries in Washington?
It has to be.
Yeah.
And
injuries is going to block for us?
I mean, Gunnar Helm and Jatavian Sanders block for him.
Yeah, he can mix it up. He's not afraid to. Just,
get in front of him, man.
Get in front of him. I didn't think 2 seconds. That's all I need. 2 seconds.
Hey, the tight end just doing a quick, the blocking is going to be different on a lot of these. They're not going to ask the tight end to be drive blocking anybody. I'm not really worried about it. And they have Arch as a constraint as well. Let's light it up through the air, please. It's time for Sark to actually put a bunch of points on the board and light it up through the air. And they can still light it up through the air in 12 personnel because both of those tight ends are really good receiving threats.
Yeah, the crazy part, we were also talking the other day that the most high-flying Sark's offense has actually been with Casey Thompson. So being able to get back to hitting some deep shots is going to be, man, Sark's going to love that too. And then a lot of the stuff is going to be counter runs, right? So your tight end's going to be running head starts, and he's going to get matchups with linebackers, which are favorable and stuff like that. So even in the run game too, there's going to be a lot of help.
Different blocking situation. Man, give me this Ryan Nelson. I don't know. What I saw from that Claire dude that went from Purdue to Ohio State, he's a different dude to me. I think Claire's probably the best tight end in the country to me. Stowers is obviously interesting. Freak athlete for being a tight end, 7-foot high jumper. That you don't see any of that. Dude, I told Aggies he was probably going to end up being a tight end. They didn't like that, but that's why you got to embrace who they truly are and try to sell them on it so you don't lose a talented guy like Stowers. You think A&M could use him this year?
Yeah. Jordan Washington, probably in that, not probably, in that second string spot. Kobe Black, is he going to be cornerback 3 with Jalen Gilbo bumping outside?
That's what I think. That's what I think is going to happen. I think Gilbo's going to be your starter. We've talked about that a whole lot. Probably will still talk about it a whole lot. There's still competition going on. Kobe Black's got a chance to have a good August and make the coaches, give it to him, go earn it. I just tend to think that the way the staff works, they have a bias over the experienced player. Have Gilbo start. If he does struggle, you can always bring in Kobe Black. We saw Kobe look really good at times last year in that Vanderbilt game, and he's leaner, so his body could have gone 2 different ways, and they're making a concerted effort to keep him at corner, long and lean. They don't want him putting on any unneeded weight. Like he could easily play safety if he wanted to. But yeah, he's going to be a good player. I just have him locked in as a 2026 starter. I think 2025, he's just got experience in front of him.
Yeah, I love Kobe a lot. The games that he played in, even go back to the Arkansas game, he was pretty much in the hip pocket of Andrew Armstrong, who was leading the SEC in catches.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't much separation. So I like Kobe. I like what he can be. I think the more reps he gets, the more confidence he gets. I think he can maybe solidify and take that spot. If somebody else give up a couple of catches, put Kobe Black in. I think he just has that mentality and swagger, man. You put him out there, I think he'll go lock people down.
It kind of depends on if Gilbo does get beat, why is he getting beat? Maybe there's a chance that, the way it's happening to Gilbo is unlikely to happen to Black. Now that could go the other way too, if the experience is, if Black's making a mental mistake here or there. But with Black, people started throwing the freak word around with him this spring. So he's definitely on watch to play a ton this year. I just think that they're going to defer to experience, especially early in the season. Now, Kobe Black starts playing really well. There's going to be September's a very weird month. They're going to come back from Columbus, and you're going to see young players playing a lot. That's the time to play Wardell Mack a ton. That's the time to play, Grayson Littleton and all these younger guys, because the September schedule is trash. So you come back from Columbus, you're going to play your absolute best, the guys you feel most comfortable with, the guys that if you're playing a playoff game that you would play. But then September, it gets wide open. Empty out the bench, play all the youngsters.
Yes.
Yeah. And also, if you're corner 3 at Texas, you're going to be all right. You're going to get reps.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to be fine. Yeah. Wide receiver, Parker Livingstone. Man, fun beginning of spring, fun close of spring, but bringing in Mosley from Stanford is consequential, especially if he ends up at the slot, bumping more out. So Eric makes a really good note here that it's technically DeAndre Moore that would be ahead of Livingstone, not Mosley. But future's looking bright there from what we've heard from spring ball.
Yeah, I'm kind of accounting for everything I've heard overall at wide receiver, and including the young talented freshmen. It seemed like Livingstone to me is a lock to be wide receiver 4. Now they could be more dynamic if they wanted to keep more at the slot and Livingstone outside. Then you have 3, elite to borderline elite speed receivers out there. That Sark likes that vertical threat, so you can move more inside where he's already has good rapport with Arch. And you can get more of a vertical threat over Mosley, or you can put Mosley there and you can do, maybe if you're going to focus on the perimeter run game, you want Mosley out there and more as well. Yeah. But Livingstone's a willing blocker too. I think bringing in Mosley kind of tempers my expectations on Livingstone, not his long-term ability. He's tall, he's catching everything. He's very fast, probably second fastest guy measured by miles per hour on the team behind Niblett. But yeah, Mosley has experience. That Moore's going to start. Wingo's going to start. I think Livingstone is probably the number 1 backup to both Wingo and Moore as an outside receiver.
I love that. I think Parker's got the buy time, right? He was on scout team, red shirted. Like he worked his way up to the active squad. Go back and look at last year. Everybody's talking about Isaiah Bond and everybody else. Oh, here comes Silas Bowden, right? Matthew Golden, even though he was good, almost a forgotten man, but he ended up taking over. Like you never know how things will play out. I think Livingstone, if he stays consistent, even though you're bringing in Mosley, he has to get acclimated to the offense and how they do things. You just never know how things unfold. I know he has veteran. He's great. He did great things at Stanford as a freshman, but give my boy Parker Livingstone a chance he gets out there. I don't think he comes off the field. I think I'm going to change my Twitter profile picture to Parker Livingstone, man. That's my guy for this year. I'm telling you. I called Gunnerham last year. It's Livingstone this year.
No. Oh, wait. Gringo and Wingo, man. We might be onto something here. We're Wingo and Gringo. Gringo kind of goes with like his Texas garb. He's got the cowboy hat and all that. Do you think Sark will go 5 wide? No, hell no, he won't. He never does. Why would he do that? his 5 wide receiver will come from having receiving threats at all 5 of the positions that he does play. You know, if you go 2 tight ends, you still have receiving threats with injuries in Washington, 2 tight ends with hopefully a running back. Mike Leach isn't walking through that door. No 5 wides anytime soon. You won't even see 4 wides really out of Sark. It doesn't give you want to put defenses. You want to confuse them. You want to be able to have the whole playbook. They're just not. That's not his offense.
You could see empty in like 11 personnel, which would still be a running back and a tight end. But man, I can imagine. Well, you know, if it's third and whatever, and Arch can run. Hey man, go empty. If the quick game's not there, Arch hits the draw. But yeah, Sark. I mean, seeing Sark even go 10 personnel would freak me out whenever it happens.
No, we'll see a lot of empty for sure.
That'll be fun. Before we keep going, guys. Academy Sports and Outdoors is your new home for Jordan. Gear up today and take flight on the court, off the court, and above the court. Unleash your greatness with head-to-toe Jordan gear for the entire family. Available in-store and at academy.com. Elevated styles and shoes for everyone. Unstoppable value every single day. Plus, Academy offers easy ways to shop and save time, like free 1-hour in-store or curbside pickup on academy.com orders. Or choose same-day delivery powered by DoorDash. You can order by 4 p.m. and get it to your house by 8 p.m. Check out our full Jordan selection today at Academy Sports and Outdoors.
And I know people are addicted to Jordan gear, but if you're DoorDash and Jordan gear,
you're on the next level.
Yeah.
I gotta have my Jordan. All right, Star, Wardell Mack. So Star has been such a weird, fun, intriguing position this offseason. And we don't know if they want to get their best 5 and Jelani McDonald needs to bump down and all that stuff. But let's hear about Wardell Mack and then his future at the position.
Yeah, I think he is the future of the position, but what's the present? That's the main question for me. They moved Wardell Mack from corner to start last October. He started picking it up pretty well. He kind of fits it for everything you're looking at. He's got the coverage ability. He's a physical kid. Has good length for the position. I just don't think they're going to start a guy that are making his first start against Ohio State. Now, this is what he's perfect for what I was talking about in September when you're playing all these other schools that Texas is going to blow. Texas is going to be a 30-point favorite in September. Play Wardell Mack a lot. Get him acclimated. I don't know if I said here or said somewhere else that they should just say, hey, look, Jelani. I don't think Jelani wants to play star all that much. Just play star for Ohio State, and we'll bring Wardell and Grayson along in September, and then we'll go back to playing star matchups like we did with you against Michigan and other teams that like to run it. I think Jelani definitely prefers safety. I don't really blame him. But Wardell Mack, I think he's going to play a lot this year. But I think he's going to be a year away before he really shines, takes it over as a full-time starter, and kind of has that sort of maybe a Jahdae Barron in 2022 breakout. I think he does have that ability at the position to be a force at the line of scrimmage, but also pretty good in coverage as well. And then I think at some point he's probably going to want to get his year at corner, kind of like Barron got and like Gilbo got, to showcase his ability for the NFL.
Yeah, I wonder if that's becoming a trend. Hey, we'll pay you off. We'll pay you off in your final year.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like it's definitely a reason to get somebody back too. Jalen Gilbo.
Yeah.
That's the best way to entice these guys to improve their stock. But even if like Gilbo's probably a nickel in the NFL anyways, where we always thought Barron would be a corner, I thought Barron would be a corner in the NFL. But it's definitely if you're a so-so corner, then it even makes you a better, more attractive nickel, because if you can kind of get away with playing corner at a high level against good SEC receivers, they're going to feel a lot more confident about you at nickel in the NFL.
Yeah. I'm excited. The nickel position is just a weird, fun spot, especially with Littleton. All right. The brand names here for the Stargazers. Justice Terry, Lance Jackson, Jonah Williams. And this will be a good lead-in because we're going to talk about Jonah here shortly. But the 5 stars, Eric, how are we feeling? Are they getting reps?
Well, the problem is they've got really good, talented, experienced players ahead of them. Justice Terry played some at edge. I like that. Just figure out a way to get him on the field, swing him outside if you want. You can still be big against the run, but also athletic. He showed a lot of pass rush ability no matter where they lined him up. You always want that on the field. Tend to think he can be out there in a sub package. Lance Jackson played both edges, both behind Colin Simmons and behind Ethan Burke. I like that as well. Just get him on the field any way you can. I anticipate both those guys playing a lot. And then Jonah, this kind of comes down with the other two, where I think sub packages are going to be big for Justice in particular, maybe even Lance. But a sub package of dime is probably the best way to get Jonah on the field. He's going to be sandwiched by a bunch of experienced DBs. He doesn't have to really know everything. Just listen to the guys that are barking in your ear. You got Taff on one side, you got Manny Muhammad on the other. You're going to know what to do. And then you got all the athleticism to pull off whatever they ask of you. So I think dime is the perfect way to get Jonah Williams ready. It's kind of like, to me, it's the same as putting Anthony Hill out there on edge against Alabama in 2023. He doesn't have to know how to play an inside linebacker to impact the game. Jonah can just go out there sort of freelance while everybody else is doing their job. He's probably still going to make plays.
True that. I look at Justice Terry and Lance Jackson. Go back to Georgia's national championship when they had a young number 13, the Williams kid that just got drafted by the 49ers, right? The defensive end, and the guy that kind of had a field day versus us, the other edge, right?
Yeah,
they were freshmen in that national championship game. They were rushing off the edge. They got time in certain packages. I think these guys can be used the exact same way. Come in, buy your time, but come in and get packages, gain some experience, make a couple plays. But by their third year, man, they're just taking over, getting after it.
This guy says sooner we get a first-round draft pick at center, the better. Man, what was
I know. When was the last time you can
centers? Are we talking basketball here? Because centers don't go in the draft early. Who's the center? Cole Hudson.
Wow.
But also it's weird, man, because that's such a crucial position. I get that you don't need the level of athleticism. It's really a cerebral position. But for how important they are, their draft stock does not meet their importance on the field.
Yeah, right. If I can get Dermontti Dawson, I'm taking him in the first round, but you just don't know if they're going to be Dermontti Dawson.
Yeah, it's so intangible there. What's the latest on Brandon Baker?
Right tackle starter. We'll see. It's going to be interesting. I can't wait to hear about him in August because right now things are pretty even. Nobody's predicting stardom for him. They don't seem too worried about it, but the fact that nobody's super excited, that's a little bit of a concern. Like we've never heard the same noise about him that we heard about Trevor Gooseby, or even like we heard more about Nick Brooks. Not necessarily for playing this season, but overall long-term upside NFL sort of player. That thing. We haven't really heard that about Brandon Baker really since he's been on campus. I mean, it's not that he's a bad player. It's just that maybe he's not a great player, at least not yet.
He's on a longer curve, maybe. All right. So what we've seen here is that these players could start elsewhere. So how is Sark able to keep these guys in the boat, right? Why not go to X school and start today?
Well, if you do that, you just introduce unnecessary risk. Kobe Black they're on the assembly line, and the assembly line is still moving straight towards the NFL. They just got a product in front of them that's about to get pulled off right in front of them. So they still play a lot. If they were sitting on the bench, if this was 2005 Texas, and you're only playing 5 or 6 DBs total, that would be a bigger issue. They're going to play more defensive backs this year than we've ever seen in our entire lives, maybe at any school. As far as not playing them due to injury, just playing with rotate guys, keep everybody fresh, keep them engaged too. Keeping them engaged is a big part of it. But it's transactional at this point. Sark plays them, even if they're the backup, they still play. They're going to get 30 whatever snaps. But then it's transactional. Stay in the program. Like one person told me, like they see Arch Manning waiting his turn, then who the hell are they to think they should be starting too, right? I mean, you can wait your turn as well. Just put your trust in the coaches, and the coaches are doing a great job earning the trust. Not only are they upfront and honest with them, everything's about competition. They're earning the trust by seeing all these guys get put in the NFL. Jalen Gilbo is going to trust them to put him at corner in the best position, even though it's a new coaching staff. He still understands that he's going to get that opportunity. Trust Sark. He just saw what Sark did with Jahdae Barron to get him to come back and put him showcase for the NFL. There's just a lot of trust all around. And so there's no reason to leave. And then, of course, there's NIL, right? These guys are still making decent NIL at Texas, even if they aren't the frontline starter yet. They're going to get there, though. Each one of those guys are going to start a lot of games.
Yeah, and that's and Eric did another little note where, Benda and Majors were pretty much the only guys not drafted, but they still went undrafted free agent. Mm-hmm. It's easy to wait when you have certainty after the waiting. It's hard to wait when you don't know you're going to make it to the league. this team is this staff is one of the most developmental top 3 in the country. If you wait your turn, you see good things. So it's easy to wait when you have certainty at the end of that waiting.
Absolutely.
What's the latest on Myron Charles?
Yeah, I haven't heard a ton about Myron Charles. And true freshman, you got all those bodies come in. I'll ask around about him. I ask, we can normally tell you something about pretty much all 85 of them. But with Myron, you got a lot of guys in front of him. He's probably he's the number 3 D tackle of the 3 that they brought in, which is not a knock. They brought in, they're all 3 of them are studs. We just haven't heard a lot. You should have no expectations for Myron Charles this year. 0-0-0. Just because they've got you can't bring in 5 D tackles, playing what you have to through the portal, and then you're going to play all these true freshmen. It's just not going to work.
Yeah, there's also a reason you raid the portal like that.
Yeah, Sharma is I don't know. They'll probably get Sharma on the field at least within the 4-game rule to keep the red shirt. But he sounds like he's ready. I heard a couple of good examples about Sharma later in the spring. Even him giving DJ Campbell the business a time or two. So Sharma's probably ready to see some snaps. He's definitely more talented than some of the guys that they brought in. We'll see if he's ready. Might be a guy that they try to give 10 snaps like we were hoping Sadir Mitchell could become. Didn't quite get there. Sharma might be a guy that they want to play this year just to give him some experience because they're definitely going to count on him in 2026.
What's his weight roughly? Is he like, 310 or something?
When I saw him in last July.
He looks insane.
When I saw him last July, he looked about 300, 310. When I saw recent pictures of him, and it's not fat. There's certain people that you've hit, and they probably play D tackle in the NFL.
It's just a square human.
Yeah, big square chest.
It's like hitting the side of beef. Like it literally is that. Like they look like they're carrying way too much bad weight, but then you hit them and nothing moves.
Yeah.
Like, boom, your hand stops.
Yeah.
That's how he looks right now. And, he was working out quite hard when I saw him. He takes football seriously. I joked with his Folsom coaches that, you guys forgot to take the pads off him when you sent him out to Texas. He just looks a lot bigger than what I saw. He's got to be 340 pounds at least.
Sheesh. That's awesome. Do we like our O-line depth? If something happens, can we feel comfortable about who steps up? What grade would you put on the O-line? I do not feel super comfortable right now.
No,
I don't feel good about the depth at all. I'm still. What's today? It's probably going to be like the day before the opener, and I'll still be waiting for a grad transfer offensive lineman. That's what it seems like right now. May 12th. Yeah, I still think a grad transfer offensive lineman is possible. I would love to see that happen. I don't feel great about the depth, honestly. The grade, how do you want the grade? Do you want to average all 5 guys across the board? I think if you're going to see a lot of different individual grades. Like I'd give Trevor Gooseby like an 8.5 or 9 going into next season. Yeah. I would give DJ Campbell a 9 going into next season. I feel pretty good about Cole Hudson. Maybe I'll put a 7 on him at center. But then, Neto, 4 or 5, Baker 5. So it's just a lot of fluctuation. But I don't think we should look at them as individual parts, though, because I think the scheme changes and Arch are going to be force multipliers for them. I do like the fact that they're going to be running. Maybe we have some concerns about Neto, but I don't really have concerns about him pulling as a puller.
Right.
DJ Campbell might be one of the most important players on offense this year, with running backs, running right behind him, especially on the pull counter and gap schemes and stuff. So I think schematically that the program is in by far the best position it's ever been in under Sark. And we haven't really talked about that enough, probably because it's the hardest thing to try to draw out. It's definitely a projection. But defensively, there's more stuff on defense they're able to do than ever before. I think the same goes for offense with everything that you can run with Arch. You can run RPOs. You can run the mid-range passing game. You can throw the deep ball, and then you can throw the deep ball some more. I think there's ways that you can pass to open up the run when the run game isn't necessarily, being the initial, we saw the run game stall against good defenses. If that happens again this season, you're going to be able to throw and loosen up the defense, I think, in ways that Texas couldn't last year.
Yeah. I may not feel comfortable about the depth, but I've been around an offensive line that some offensive linemen look like running backs up front, right? It recently at UNLV, I'll be honest with you. We still ran the ball. We still found a way to make it happen, right? So if you get buy-in, get these guys not making mental mistakes, but just buying in, knowing what to do. Double team when you're supposed to double team. Like get to the second level when you're supposed to get there. Just get a body on the body. I'm not asking you to drive a guy 10 yards down the field. Just get in his way a little bit. I mean, I feel comfortable about the depth on paper, But as these guys continue to play and get more reps, maybe we grow confidence in them. So we'll see.
Also, man, if you're worried about tackle and guard, at least we have a more mobile quarterback. That's going to matter too, man. Just in the pocket, not even in the run game. Arch can stand a little taller. Any idea how the off the field incident with Nick Brooks will affect play time in September?
Yeah, normally I'd say, well, don't expect him to play all that much because he's a true freshman, but that's the part of the schedule you do want to play him. I think the coaches will feel good about his punishment being doled out in the summer and go from there. But I don't know. We'll have to, maybe he misses a half against directional U. They don't.
The Sharon Moore plan, dude. He can let him pick.
I don't want to say that they're okay with that, but that's not the sort of offense that you're going to really get. The coaches aren't going to come down on you too hard. If you had a gun in the car, it would be a whole different story than having a big pen in there. I mean, I don't want to say he's not in trouble, but I think there's a little bit of a wink here. Like, all right, look, Nick, don't do this again. And don't talk to the cops if you don't have to. He had the truth serum strain.
Yeah.
You don't need to overshare, bud. Just be smarter, make better decisions. Go run the stairs, but don't run the stairs too much because we don't want you to lose any weight.
I just don't want Arch having to run more than he needs to. It's great to extend or run if needed. I hope we can kill it with our wide receivers and running backs. I agree, and so does the Manning camp, I'm sure.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but what's the number when you say I need to? Like, that's not, you had to put a number on that, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a time and place for it. You run it in the shoe. If you can break their will and red zone touchdown with him, you got to do it. But yeah, if you don't want to see him get any carries in September, he's still going to get some improv carries. That's going to happen. Play's going to break down instead of eating a sack. He's going to run, break the pocket, hopefully look for the sideline. But he's wired to kind of not look for the sideline. Exactly. They're going to have to coach him up a little bit because he's got a hard-nosed mentality. There's going to be a time and place for all of it. We've talked about it. Kind of this goes to special teams as well, where you don't always want Michael Taff out there quarterbacking things, but if you're playing Georgia in the playoffs or the SEC championship game, you want Michael Taff out there on special teams. Okay, now the risk and reward is a little bit different, and so I think that that's how they're going to view Arch. A&M, it's November. You want to beat A&M no matter what.
Correct.
Run them a little bit more, but. Yeah, you're not Mississippi State. You hope he doesn't run at all.
Yeah,
true.
Or run them early and just psychologically put that in their minds and then play off of that schematically. Like there's ways to threaten the run without necessarily running.
But before the game, put the highlights up of his long run against UTSA just to reinforce it that way so you don't even have to run them. Put that on loop. We'll do it again.
Guarantee. That's on the scouting report forever now.
But it was funny that Archie, like one of the press conferences, Arch ran and Archie was like, do not do that. Like he literally, they're in his ear, like, don't run if you don't have to, man.
Yeah.
And that's from Archie who could run, man.
He knows. Yeah. When Clemson, they like the Mannings liked a lot of things about Clemson. And that's not a hard stretch to see, right? Mm-hmm. But what knocked him out was seeing, Trevor taking shots going into the end zone. And that's why, I said, look, he's going to Clemson this weekend. I said, Clemson's not a threat. They're not going to Clemson. They're going to Clemson because they like the school. They like Dabo, they like the culture, all that stuff. They're not going to Clemson. And it was precisely because of, some of the stuff we're talking about right now. Trevor Lawrence getting drilled running into the end zone.
Yeah.
Hey, but you got to win football games, and so and he's a tough kid. He's well built. There's going to be a time that he does have to take the hit if the team wants it to win to the level it needs to.
Yeah, it's game dependent, right? OU, A&M, Ohio State runs are on, and that you just don't want to do it during the rest of September. Before we keep going, guys, let's hear a word from Andre the Lawyer.
This video is brought to you by Andre the Lawyer. If you're injured, trust the team that secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans with their injury case. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, and wrongful deaths. Don't let insurance tell you what your claim is worth. Hire Andre the Lawyer to fight for you. Principal office is in Dallas, but they serve Texans throughout the state. So don't wait and call Andre the Lawyer today at 214-444-8808. That's 214-444-8808. The contact information is in the description.
Okay, guys, I have a story for you. We'll begin with this image.
Oh, Lord.
This is Jonah Williams. This is Friday. We're playing Florida, and we're down 8-1. So we're down 7 runs, and Jonah Williams comes up to bat. The pitcher misses low, ball. Jonah's talking. He's not really saying anything. He's doing these odd like head moves, So it's like he's still within the baseball world there, but he's talking. The pitcher continues through and ends up walking him. Jonah's talking after every single ball and every single strike at the pitcher, right? So finally, the pitcher does walk Jonah. So this is Jonah here staring down the pitcher after being walked. He also, I don't know if you can see it, he flips his bat out, pimps the bat a little bit, pimps a walk. And then he turns back down. He's going down the baseline now. He turns back to the catcher to make a comment to the catcher. I don't know if the catcher said something to him, but this is him discussing the at-bat with his catcher friend. Then he continues down the baseline. The first baseman then approaches Jonah. Now pay attention here. Jonah's eyes right on. Jonah is not a fearful young man. At this point, and then the first base coach comes and kind of breaks it up there. There's nothing really intense. It's just talk. You would see this on the football field and not even think twice.
Right.
And then, of course, Ump comes up. Hey, guys, let's chill out. And then Schloss will come over later. And so this caught the baseball world by storm, of course, right? Because any emotion is just out of the question in baseball. It's so old school. And so the big thing here for the haters are, why are you doing this down 7 runs, man? And frankly, if I was a Florida fan, I would do this same argument. This argument is going to work depending what side you're on. But the thought process here is, hey, man, we're looking flat. We're on a 5 out of 6 game loss. We're on a slide. The fans aren't in it. The team's not in it. We can't hit to save our lives. So really nothing's going on in the batter's box, baby. So let's generate some juice by some psychological warfare, maybe. If we can't really hit, let's get them to walk that way. So Jonah gets hype. It's fun, national. Everybody has their opinion. But what I think is important here is this is what a football player looks like on the diamond. So what were you guys' thoughts, man, of Jonah's fun? Yeah, exactly. Jonah's fun little, outburst.
That's the takeaway. That's the takeaway, right? We've been telling people since I did a lot of homework on this one. The thing that really changed my mind on Jonah like 100% was when I heard, he really likes football more than baseball. Plays baseball because he's good at it. The parents would probably prefer he goes baseball over football, that sort of thing. I've got a lot of thoughts on this. It's funny, especially hearing you talk about it. I was laughing, but I don't like it. I don't think it's good for baseball because people are throwing a 95-mile-per-hour.
They can kill you. Yeah.
Take some at you next time.
It's not going to end well. It guarantees a fight. You might as well just have a fight before the game starts and then have everybody chill out. In defense of Jonah, he's a football player. Only thought they were down 1 score. 7 runs. I don't think it's great for the sport. I don't really care for it. If in the litmus test here is if Jace Lavallee did that for A&M, how would you feel? Or let's say in an alternate reality where Schlossnagle didn't come to Texas, he's still at A&M. Jonah Williams was at A&M. You saw Jonah doing that in a different color uniform. So my reaction is, how would I feel about it if he was playing for A&M and did it? And so that's an easy answer for me.
Right. This is clearly a perception-based. What side of it are you on?
Well, I don't think, and you don't. It's baseball is a team sport, but it's also an individual sport. Him hyping up the next batter isn't going to help that guy focus on a fastball or a corner, or read what the pitcher's going to do. It's 1-2. What pitch am I about to get? It doesn't. Emotion doesn't help you like it does in football. If he's talking to one of his teammates and they're about to run down on kickoff in the shoe in front of 100,000 people, it doesn't have the same effect in baseball.
It was Max Kellerman make that point like a couple of years ago that there's certain sports that getting angry makes you better, but like golf, you don't get better at golf.
No, you don't get better at golf.
Off, in baseball, kind of focusy sports like that. And then, of course, everybody had their opinions, and then Jonas, replied on Twitter, confidence is key. And so
that was a little bit more than Ken Griffey Jr. had confidence. He wasn't acting like Juan Soto and if you haven't seen this, it basically made Juan Soto look tame. It was,
I don't know, man.
I was surprised. Hey, but he's a football player, and when he was talking to that first baseman, he was probably telling him about Galveston.
Yeah, yeah, you can see here that there's not much fear with the icon.
Yeah. I think that's just how he's wired. Like, to me, I'm not the biggest baseball guy. I understand baseball etiquette. I'm gonna be me. You're gonna get my whole personality, how I am, no matter what sport I play. If you don't like it, oh well. I'm not code switching. I'm not changing up for anybody, any uniform, any commentator, whatever. I'm gonna be me.
And be all right.
You gotta see on Twitter, say it. But I'm gonna be me. I'm not. You can't take me out of being me. That's what got me to this point, right? So don't expect me to conform and just be what you want me to be because what history says. I'm gonna be me, and I'm better than most people. Other people who talk and commentate about the sport. So I'm gonna be me. If you don't like it, oh well. But I'm gonna be a baller. Maybe he was trying to get himself going. I don't know. Maybe that's who Jonah is. He's from the 409. You see a lot of people supporting him that's from that area. Like, yeah, Jonah, be you. Don't let them change you, But we're going to get that same Jonah on the football field and love it, right?
Yeah. Well, the bottom line is he's a good dude. Like, it's not. There's people out there that are baseball fans that are like, oh man, they're probably throwing the thug word around. Well, he's the furthest thing from a thug you'll ever find. His dad's a freaking judge.
Well, it cracks me up too because I don't know the situation in Galveston. I've gone to Galveston to vacation. It's been lovely, and then I see her on Twitter like, let them know about Galveston.
There's two different Galvestons. I got pictures from my trip down there where I had to get the full experience, and it was it was fun though. They're selling boo down outside the club at 2:00. But no, Galveston is two different worlds for sure. But and Jonah's probably two different people in some ways as far as when he comes between the lines and all that. But yeah, he's a good dude. But yeah, I think bottom line, Ed B nailed it. Ian said the same thing. He's just a football player. He's out there playing baseball. And I think that's part of it. But and going back to what Charlie said about his confidence, what did he do the next day?
Yeah, I was going to say it. So this is what's important. Sure. And I want to talk to. They asked Schloss. Schloss gives great interviews, by the way, like really like open. So he basically was just like, yeah, we know the young guy has to calm down. We know. And he mentioned the unwritten rules of baseball. He says Jonah knows them. But basically he was just like, dude, I love this guy's competitive spirit. He quote, he's such a special human being. He's giving us juice. He's locked in with his teammate. So Schloss was like, we'll handle that with the young pup. But frankly, that we need this, and that's what I liked about it. But so Jonah does this. National outrage amongst the baseball community. And like I said, as far as entertainment goes, he was the moment of Friday or maybe the weekend. But the next day, Saturday game, the only one we won out of this series, he has a bases clearing double in the bottom of the sixth tied game. Puts Texas up 5-2. Texas goes on to win the game. So I think that's the most interesting part is he has this moment. Everyone, wants to get mad at him on Twitter. The next day, he's the reason why, we're able to win the only game of the series versus Florida in this weird 6-game kind of slide we've had. Yeah, so that's an important thing too.
That swing scares the crap out of me because you see that and you're like, oh man, that is a major league swing. Yeah. Jonah, keep that energy, man. Go play football. We need to harness it the right way.
Come on, August.
Let's get this guy off the diamond.
Yeah. And it'll be fun. When are we going to get a Sark availability? Because that's going to be fun to ask Sark about too, because Sark's a baseball fan, played football player.
Sark's hanging around the diamond too. He was at the
that photo of them.
Yeah, Sark came down. It was raining. Sark still drove, got driven over in the golf cart. It's pouring down rain, going to cheer on his guy. And then, of course, Sark likes to cheer on all the other teams too, the head coaches and all. He's friends with all of them. But yeah, he's got his star prize recruit. Yeah, that was a fun recruitment, man. I learned a lot about that kid during that recruitment, and I'm not surprised. But he's an awesome kid too. I know a lot of people are, especially rival fan bases, are probably judging somebody that they saw. It's he's an awesome kid.
Yeah, and someone said his dad's a judge.
Yeah, I just said that a minute ago. His dad's a judge.
Yeah.
Talk to his mom and dad before. They're great people, man. They're fabric of the community. But yeah, he's that's a football player.
I just want to know what happens before because he's taking his at bat and it's like 1-0 and he's talking. So there must have been some conversation that occurred prior, or he just said, you know what, this game's getting boring. Let's get everyone engaged. We're getting beat bad. And guess what? Everyone was engaged after that point.
Yeah.
But go watch Sloss. Sloss basically did everything he could to say, like, I liked what happened there.
Yeah, it goes back to the Nick Brooks thing, right? Like, come on, Nick. Don't
Yeah.
Don't do that. You're not really in trouble.
Exactly.
You're not really in trouble, Nick. I got to say this.
Yeah. You're gonna run, buddy.
Yeah.
Don't do it again. But it was and go back and watch the clips. You guys on Twitter can go see it actually play out. I had to, not get demonetized by showing you the clip, but I mean, just the facial expressions here are really incredible. And
That's after a walk.
That's after a walk. Yeah. Yeah, he pimps it, and then he goes for the walk. So it was awesome. It's he's gonna be fun, man. And yeah, it was good proof of football playerness. That's
a guy you want out there in dime. Taft is kind of saying, "Hey, look, bro. I mean, Jonah's a smart player too, so it's not like he'll be out there totally lost. But missing spring ball is going to have him a little bit behind the curve. Yeah. You got Manny Muhammad one side of him, in his ear. Hey, you got this guy. I got this guy. And Taft kind of doing the same thing. You can just let him go out and play with this sort of energy.
Well, that's an important thing too. Is like Jonah wasn't in the rotation early. We had some injuries, but this is a kid that should be in high school, that was playing. No, we're not number one anymore. We've been on a bit of a slide. We're anywhere from 3 to 6 now. But this is a guy competing in the best baseball conference at this age, should be in high school. And you see he's bringing this juice to, guys that are 23. Like the mental eval here and he's hitting some clutch plays. And when he's not on a hitting streak, he seems to hit when it matters too. Yep. These are all things that translate.
Yeah, he put a swing on that double too. That was beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the best part of the story is that he comes back the next day with all the pearl clutching and it's like, all right, let's get this win. But we will talk Inside Texas Baseball. Y'all for you baseball heads, be looking after that. I'm sure it'll be a bit of a solemn episode with our poor Nash, no longer number one in the country, but he's gonna be fun. I can't wait.
Keep the same energy. Yeah.
Yep. I'm trying to go through these comments have been really funny. He was predestined. He never had a choice. Do you think Jonah Williams is a starter next year, like done type thing?
What, at safety?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he will start. Taft will be gone.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you got to hedge that a little bit. If Derek Williams and Jelani McDonald are both back, then he won't be, but he'll play a ton. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting. All those guys can play. Jonah, you could probably play at nickel. Honestly, I mean, I don't know if you'll want to do it, but you could use him there like you used Jelani, and that would also get him on the field, but also make him pay his young man dues. While Jelani at that point is the old man. Like, go play your NFL position for a year. I could see that happening, but a lot of those guys are versatile. Jordan Johnson-Rebel is going to play a lot. He could play nickel as well. There's a lot of different things they can do. Jonah's going to play a ton. I think as much as we see dime this year is going to kind of tell us how much he plays. But then the following year he'll play dime and standard nickel defense.
I think Jonah would be fun at nickel, man, because he likes to hit. He's fast enough to blitz. Like
you watch his high school tape, he just owns the middle of the field, so it doesn't really matter where you put him. You can see these pictures too. He's not too bulked up right now. There was a lot of talk about Texas early on thought maybe linebacker for his future, but you can see in these pics that he's not overly bulked up.
No.
You don't want to carry too much weight at nickel, especially if you're as tall as Jonah is, at least 6'2". Yeah, it's kind of like Jelani. And Jelani McDonald was kind of their template for him as far as the recruit. Like, hey, yeah, we like big safeties. We're not going to move you to linebacker. A lot of people thought Jelani McDonald was going to play linebacker, and we got him at nickel and safety. So we got a proof of concept here. And like Jelani, he's not carrying too much weight.
Yeah, what do? You just work out really hard in the summer after baseball season ends, and what do you do?
Well, when you're a freak like these guys, you just work out like normal, and it's gonna your body's gonna go a certain direction. Now, some guys you have to have like a certain mindset towards, like Kobe Black we were talking about. You don't want him to put on too much weight, so you're gonna work him out a little bit differently, or put him on a different diet. You don't want him to get too bulked up. And I think Jonah, for someone that doesn't want to play linebacker, and same for Jelani, is you have to be mindful. You start weighing 225 pounds, they're going to look at you a lot differently. So stay right there around 210. He's probably 210 right now because he is 6'2", 6'3". He's kind of a little bit more weight in his legs than the average guy. Yeah, he's got to be mindful not to get up to 220, 225. But eventually, in the NFL, he'll probably be Kyle Hamilton. Kyle Hamilton probably weighs 225 these days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just let your body go the natural course.
Yeah, he's going to be fine.
More sprinting than lifting.
And they run
And
a
that-
lot in Texas too, so that helps. Texas,
I was gonna say, we're the number one running team. Like all the players talk about how much it sucks.
yeah, they didn't, and Texas players didn't know how much they ran outside of the fact that they were running a lot. They're like, God, is this normal? Well, then they started getting all these transfers coming in, and the transfers are like, what the hell are you all doing? They're getting transfers from Alabama, from Georgia, from wherever else. Like, we never ran halfway like this, but it's not running like distance. It's all sprints and work stuff that's functional. You hear people running for distance. That's a waste of time. But yeah, they run a lot, and it's August, and it's and they run in June and July, and it's super hot. So that kind of helps these guys, these bigger guys that might switch positions if they were in a different program, keep the weight off.
Man, and it gives you a mental edge too, man. Running in that heat, like it's not just physical on those sprints.
It's not either.
Yeah, you can later in the season when you're at a tough point, you're going to remember those workouts.
Yeah, any of the ex players that you talk to will tell you that they by far dread the sprinting days more than anything else.
Yeah, I remember who was it? It might have been Watts that came in from Ohio State, but they were like, "What is going on here?
What is this?"
Yeah, he's one. He's one for sure. Yeah, I knew there was an Ohio State guy. Yeah, I was thinking Ohio State wasn't coming to me quick. Obviously, it wasn't Quinn, but yeah, they've had guys from Ohio State, from Alabama, from Georgia, coming in and going, man, this is different here.
Yeah, and Becton's program, man, has been interesting. I remember year one, we were like, "What is going on?" Because Kansas was blowing us off the ball, but they were literally stripping it down to the studs and like legit building up athletes. And you see now our conditioning has never been in question since year one.
So Yancey McKnight came in, and the first thing he did was he wanted a much more physically stronger team, basically a tougher team, right? Herman always had this kind of mindset: we got to be the toughest guys in the history of football. And so he got them bigger and stronger, but they lost some flexibility and mobility. Becton came in, and the first thing he did, and he probably McKnight probably overcorrected, and then Becton his first year probably overcorrected. They probably didn't do enough strength stuff, but he worked on a lot of unilateral things. Wanted to get a lot more flexible mobility.
Yeah,
explosive was still a goal, but I think they weren't doing enough strength work. I don't think. And then they started doing things a little differently second year. And it also helps that they got better players too, players, better physical specimens, and that goes a long way as well. So now they've got kind of it's all working together. Like strength and conditioning has come around and rounded in a form just like the offense has, like the defense has.
Was it ever Public who tried to poach Becton? I can't remember.
I believe it was the New York Jets. I don't know if I ever said that, but who cares?
Ooh.
Yeah, the Jets. The Jets is what I heard.
Yeah. That's always good, man. We're in a different way, having to fend off the damn NFL every chance.
Yeah, once you get a little distance from these things, you can talk about it. Like Raiders were going after Sark, Cowboys were going after Sark, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Don't have to be as quiet.
That would have been.
But the Raiders is interesting because he turned down the Raiders all those years ago, and then Kiffin took it. And so Sark's, if you just read the history of Sark, it makes no sense, dude. Like, it's incredible. He's like 31. They're like, do you want the Raiders job? I mean, it's just like, it's crazy, man. The opportunities he's had have been absolutely stupid.
Right.
It's really impressive.
Well, he's always been that guy. He just had that blip, but he was always that phenom up and comer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, his history is fascinating. I mean, dude, just look at you get Washington, which is a crazy job to get. Then you get SC, you get job, and you turn it down. By the way, you turn down the Raiders job
when he got Washington. When he got to Texas, John Bianco, sports information director, put him on with all of us guys at the website, just like having a Zoom.
Yeah.
And I said, Sark, I kind of know who you are pretty good because, my dad, lives 5 minutes from UW. So I saw you take over 0-12, Tyrone Willingham, UW, and go I think it was 7-6. So I've seen the rebuild beforehand. He was the young up and comer. He was the hot coach, before everything got derailed. So he always had that in him. This is just who he was without, if you cut out the middle part, this is where he was always supposed to end up. Maybe if he didn't have that blip, he'd already be in the NFL. Maybe he'd already have a national championship somewhere. Who knows? But this is always who he was supposed to be.
Well, he has a real character arc too, man. Like if you look at him pre the issue at USC, they have tape of the famous like Sanchez tape of him at spring ball and all that stuff. There's also like a story of Sanchez talking about being working on quarterback stuff late at night in the office. And Sark was cocky, dude. Like just like the young hotshot kind of arrogant guy, And then He derails himself. There's a real human element. Like when it's all done, you can do a documentary on Sark, and there's a real arc that I think is interesting. That's really interesting. He's a unique guy. He went from boy wonder to almost, Icarus, flying a little too close to the sun, and now he's framed in totally. So
But and then even before that, he had a grinder path to college football, right? JUCO baseball.
Yeah.
And then he ends
Feathers.
up with Lavelle Edwards at BYU, and really inherits a very good situation at BYU after I think John Walsh was the quarterback ahead of him that left. Yeah, it's been quite a life, but I mean, the story's got a lot more to it. I think this year's going to be a major chapter of that overall story.
Dude, your history is Lavelle Edwards, Pete Carroll.
That whole BYU needs a documentary. You got Andy Reid, like some of the best.
There's not enough sex and violence in that documentary. It won't sell.
Yeah.
It's not exactly
We'll do based on a true story. We'll do based on a true story. Yeah. We'll add a couple elements, dude. We're gonna we'll keep people engaged. Don't you worry about that. But yeah, Sark's story, man, go research it because he really has an interesting story, and it's a very human story at that. All right, guys. Eric, thank you for your time. Coach, thank you for your time as well. Chat, great engagement today. You guys were firing the questions, and it was enjoyable. This episode of Here IT Live was brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. And y'all should go there today and buy some Jordans, buy some gear, whatever you need. The summer is near. Did not mean to rhyme there. Have a great day, y'all. Hook 'em.